Well, the first group of work is really work that was undertaken as a child. And it's the sort of work that most children do at school, but it's from this work that I started to receive encouragement. And from there, my parents found a junior art school and undertook a range of work. These are some examples of the work. I went directly into Birmingham College of Arts and Crafts, where I undertook a specialist course in industrial design. The work that I did there, which was under Professor Slusky, who was an ex-tutor and student of the Bauhaus, was very much Bauhaus influenced. It set the standards and set the direction for where I was going to go in the future. We was given a project was to design and make a quarter-scale scooter, a motor scooter, in 2 weeks. And I went out into my local park and I found the actual gracefulness, the actual beauty of a swan very much appropriate to what I wanted to design. And the scooter, I hope, reflects the gracefulness of the swan. And that was as I say, my first relationship in understanding how nature can influence what we design. My first job was for electrical heater. It was for Littlewoods, and I was asked to design something a little bit more of today rather than tomorrow. And the two examples on show, one shows the one that I put forward that was too modern, and the one that went into production and eventually sold 50,000 units. I went into a plastics company where I learned a lot about plastics. The investment can be easily £50,000 at the smallest end, for instance, say something like this, which is a settled cutlery, to £350,000, £500,000 investment, such as a product which is a chair over there. Most of my work is injection moulding, which is at the high end of investment. In terms of undertaking projects, it's the same project as I was taught when I was a student in university. It's very much about sketches, drawings, and making models, and then turning those into prototypes before you go into production. And the production numbers that one talks about, particularly injection moulding, is you don't actually start at anything less than about 10,000 units. I had a very good lesson when I was doing this, in that Lloyd's, who I was insured with, gave a seminar on the legal implications of designing products. And for this one, they gave an example. Okay, what's the worst case scenario in terms of a picnic case? I said, well, it's a picnic case, picnic box. It takes lightweight picnic foods. It could carry a couple of bottles of lemonade or Coca-Cola. They said, yeah, but what's the real worst situation? I said, okay, it could be full of Coca-Cola bottles, and that'd be quite heavy. He said, no, but there's something worse than that. There's something more significant than that. He said, just think about this. It's going to be used outside. It's going to be used in camping. It's going to be used down the beach. Could somebody sit on it? And yes, they can. And he said, well, if somebody sat on that and it collapsed and they fell over and broke their spine and paralysed, you've got a massive insurance situation here, a legal case in which could cost many, many hundreds of thousands of pounds, maybe even millions of pounds, depends on what accident. So you have to design this particular container to carry a weight, a significant weight, perhaps 100 kilo or more weight, just in case somebody sat on it. Fortunately for this particular design, it's double insulated. In other words, it's a very big gap and it's filled with foam, and it is a very strong box, and you can't sit down without any trouble at all. But that was a massive learning curve as far as I was concerned, in terms of when you're designing products, you have to really think about what else it can be used for over and above the intended purpose. The next project, which is a seating project, that's an interesting project because I was asked to design an uncomfortable seat. It was a seat that was going to be used for airports. And the problem then, this is before we had the problems of security, a lot of people spend their Saturdays and Sundays going to airports for a picnic, and they leave a lot of mess behind. And the idea of this seat was actually make it uncomfortable, to dissuade people from staying there for a long time, and also easy cleanable. And the design is such that you can just wipe all the mess off afterwards. This telephone was a project I undertook with STC, Standard Telephone Company. They had a contract from BT to design the next generation of telephones. It was in conjunction with their in-house design team. And one of the things I thought was necessary with this particular design was to soften it. It was very much about an interface, a user interface. And from my own personal perspective, I felt the product needed to be far more gentle. The body itself is full of curves. It's compound form. There's not a straight line in our body. and yet this telephone was carrying very, very hard-edged lines in the original concept. So I radiused it off, curved it, and made it far more softer. It wasn't so much of a fashion concept, it was more of a functional input in terms of the user. I wanted the user to feel comfortable picking it up. It felt nice in the hand, it felt nice to use, it felt soft in the house, it hadn't got sharp edges in the house. It wasn't a sort of product that was going to be driven by fashion. It wasn't going to date quickly. It did actually stay in production, I think, for about 12 years, plus the time it's been moulded in other countries. So I think it has stood its test of time, but it is very much a product that one recognises of the 80s. What I've tried to do with these is to create something more than just a door chime, something that has a visual quality to it as well as sculptural quality. And the first range, which are these here, these are a very simple form, very curvaceous, but also have a simplicity in terms of the sculptural and are elegant rather than just in a box on the wall. The second range, which is these are also sculptural, but these are far more complicated in what they can achieve. They have far more functions. Some of the developed models that took place underneath, these are made of foam, and where I was exploring the sculptural qualities, I think it's the sort of thing that you can just leave in the house and be part of the decor, if you like. We can also now move into perhaps using light, so it could be a light unit, not just a door chime, and these are now starting to be, these were exploratory pieces, looking at how these could be light glowing from them. There's a number of others in this range which are not in this exhibition. So I like to think that when we manufacture something, we put money into it, that it's going to be there for a reasonable amount of time, for ecology reasons, not only in terms of the design itself, but I think that when we design products, if we design them where they were all very decorative, etc., we put them into a room, they start to fight with each other, and I don't think products should actually fight with each other. I think they have a place, and the place they don't have to have a place of attention. In other words, the be-all and end-all of a design. They're part and parcel of a whole environment. They're another product within an environment. So much of my design is simple. I'll say simple, I can't say simple. Modern in that it's not decorative. I don't put coloured pieces on or buttons on or anything like that. The form I try to keep honest. I try to keep it honest, if you like, an honesty with integrity of the design. And that came out of my sculptural exercise when I was a student. I've got some sculptural pieces in there, and I think they were influenced by Barbara Hepworth, Henry Moore, who were the sculptors at the time of my studying. And they were an influence upon me, not in terms of the sculptures that they actually produced, but more to do with the form and simplicity of form and the statements that they were making. And I think that has stayed with me and worked its way through the products, although it does change as I've gone through the different generations. Not always the situation, but I like to think that it forms the basis.